Yeah. So when Ian comes on, he can catch up. So I'm assuming he's coming. He didn't say he wasn't coming. So obviously we got a lot of stuff to talk about. I obviously Brandon was the main star tonight, but unfortunately we have to talk about CEDRIC a little bit. So we can start with that. I was talking before we started recording. We were talking about his military stuff and the cause of death. I mean, obviously there is no actual cause of death yet, but has anybody heard anything different other than him having the heart attack on the treadmill? I know, Ryan, you said you heard something that
I can't recall exactly what it was. I mean, I don't remember, but I heard a few different things.
Yeah.
So I heard he had extreme issues after he got COVID last year.
Huh? Mm-hmm. Yeah, he talked about having John, you probably know more about it, him having pneumonia and stuff, and then something about him. Did he pass out at the hospital or something like that? Was that where he passed out? And he said he woke up 2 days later.
I heard he had pneumonia a few years ago and it was pretty bad, and then it's possible that might have damaged his heart, and then COVID was really bad last year and they had to put him on ventilators and stuff. Mm-hmm. And I saw that video where he was doing a guest posing and he was talking to Tim Wilkins on stage. He said he only had like 10% of his heart working, and he said he almost died then. So yeah. I'm not sure when that guest posing was, if it was last year. And then his last few contest appearances have been, I mean, I think the last one he was in was the one Sean Clarita won. And I think he dropped out. He didn't even come back for the night show. He looked so bad.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I do remember that now.
Yeah, the Legion.
Yeah.
Let's see what they said here. And he pulled out of the 2020 Olympia, right? That's when he broke his collarbone in his hand. He was riding a bike or something like that, wasn't he? I think that was.
Yeah, that's what it says.
Yeah. 2022, fortunately with you, because lingering stomach issues is what it has on here. But I think he came forward and said that it was actually some heart stuff.
He said he had ulcers.
Yeah.
That were real bad.
Well, the strange thing that I said this too before we started recording, for those who are, just tuning in, having served 11 years in the military, the part that's going to become so muddled up is that, look, nobody even at his height gets that weight and that lean and stays that way without some type of performance enhancing drugs. And if the command knew that he was doing that, it's against Department of Defense policy. So if they knew that was happening, and now he's a world star at this point, they can't release, oh, look, he has left ventricular hypertrophy from gear use, or he died from diuretics use, whatever, because you can't come out and say that. First of all, whether or not they pay out his life insurance policy for that's one thing, but being such a great bodybuilder, it's good for the Department of Defense. It's really good marketing being an Army veteran and being at that level. So if they knew that he was doing that and that exacerbated either a new issue post-COVID or a previous issue from pneumonia or whatever, I very seriously doubt that that's going to come out. And then it's going to come out on either side, where you're going to have a bunch of people going, this is the IFBB asking his autopsy results not to be released. And then the other side is going to go, well, this is just them either trying to hide COVID or to increase COVID, scare, whatever side you're on. It doesn't really, what I'm just saying is that this is not good for the sport with them not releasing it. But there's 3 different reasons why it's just never going to come out.
I trained a bunch of Marines here. We have the biggest Marine base here in 29 Palms. I live in Palm Springs. Every Saturday they used to come down, and I was warned that nobody can take anything.
You're not supposed to.
Yeah, of course they were not of his stature. They were not as famous as him, but I was warned that not to in any way advise anybody with that kind of stuff. So. But of course, it's different when you're this world famous. So.
Right.
How is that with Ronnie and the police? Is this the same kind of rule? Do they have the same rules, or how is it? You know that, Jason, when you were a police officer.
Yeah. You can't touch any of that stuff. No. When they hire you, they specifically ask you on polygraphs and stuff about about steroids and stuff.
But they're not going to test you or what?
That's the thing, is the test is
Yeah,
so
unless there's some reason, like, if there's an investigation on you, they'll test you. Yeah. Other than that, no.
Now, even with him being in the military, could his family order a private autopsy?
Yeah, I believe so. Because once the military's, I think, done, they release the body to the family, right?
Yep.
I actually don't know if his death wasn't duty related. I don't know how. It's not like they take his body to the morgue on base. Like, I don't necessarily think it works like that, actually, unless it was a combat related death or it was duty related. They're going to want if they think that there was something off about the autopsy, they may request a secondary. But as far as I know, I've never had, I mean, unfortunately, as morbid as this sounds, I've attended a funeral once every 8 to 12 months while I was in, and then at least once every 8 to 12 months now that I'm out, I'll get another call about a friend, either suicide or duty-related illness from previous that just wound up catching up to them. That I can't think of a single time where the base was like, well, send us the body, we'll do the autopsy. But I could be wrong.
No. Was he, we don't know if he was living on base, do we?
I can't imagine he was.
No.
No, he wasn't living on base.
Okay, so if he died at home and it wasn't on base,
That's what I was gonna.
The military will just step in and say, hey, he's active military, so we'll take care of the funeral. Basically, I think everything else is just local law enforcement, local medical examiner and stuff.
Do you know where he was when this happened? Was he in the gym? Was he on base?
Mostly he was at home.
Right?
The treadmill at home is what I heard.
Oh. Well, the military wouldn't. The family would call whoever they need to make the call to, right? And so it would go from there. The military wouldn't come to the hospital and step in to intervene with that, would they?
The commander would send the first sergeant, most likely, just for, hey, what do you guys need? Is he doing okay? Then they would have to do the announcement. I mean, look, as baseline as this sounds, this is how the military thinks. He was a person who was doing a job, and if he was meant to do that job, they need to fill that billet. So they do need to keep track of him. And the first sergeant, who is usually not of the same career field, they would go and make sure that the announcements were made, and they would notify the base that the billet is open and that they had a death on their duty roster and all this other stuff. But no, it's not like the whole, the commander and the whole unit would show up like that. It's not like that.
So he was actually on the treadmill. Is that correct?
That's what they're saying right now. That's the preliminary.
I think it was the same with Dallas, huh?
I thought Dallas was eating at his table.
Yeah, he was in the kitchen, right? And his roommate couldn't turn him over.
Yeah, because they wanted to say that he choked on his food or something like that, but then they said no, it was other stuff. So
yeah, it's just freaking tragic. He used to compete here in Palm Springs at the Freakno Classic. Last time, I think he placed second behind Curry. What an incredible guy that was. So he's really one of the more memorable characters we had, in our sport. Yeah, absolutely incredible.
I always enjoyed watching him compete because because I'm tall, and he was kind of always the tallest one on stage. I think he's 6 foot at least, 6'1".
6'1", I believe.
Yeah, he was always, for his era, he was the tallest.
And when I watch a show, I couldn't care less who places where, but with him it was always kind of different. You always wanted him to do well again.
Yeah, he always did. He was always animated and stuff in his in his posing, and
then he was tall. That was kind of refreshing.
Yeah. And I think he's the only bodybuilder that dry humped Arnold on the stage.
The first,
right?
Y'all remember that?
Yeah.
I think though that speaks a lot to his personality, because I remember when he won that Arnold Classic, he acted the same when the previous year, whether his placing at the Arnold Classic or the Olympia or whatever show was first or fifth. I can't remember a single time that his demeanor was different. I mean, it was exactly the same. Even when he won, he was joking around and, like you said, being a little bit lewd on stage. But that was his personality. It was like you said, refreshing to not have the dry, I'm climbing a mountain and this is me and the dredge chords in the background because of how suffering is. Like, he wasn't like that. And I kind of like that.
Well, plus his physique. I mean, if you like classic physique, he was. I mean, me and Phil have had this conversation on my podcast. I mean, he was like the epitome of what the old school bodybuilders looked like, except he had today's mass. He had the aesthetics. His posing was great. And one thing I always liked about him was he seemed like he had a lot of respect for that era. Like he really liked Arnold. You could tell he respected Arnold. Remember, every time he posed in front of that big 3/4 back picture of Arnold on stage, he would always touch it. Remember, like when he was at the Arnold Classic.
Yep, here he is right here.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, they actually show him.
And his poses were all like, there you go.
Mm-hmm.
Did those 3/4 back shots. I mean, those twisting shots he did with his mask, there was nobody else that could match that. Nobody in that era could match that. I mean, look at just standing relaxed like that. I mean, he just had the greatest physique. Just, as far as his conditioning, a lot of times he was off and he wouldn't win. But I just thought, looking at his overall body, I thought he was always my favorite for the last 10 years. He's been my favorite.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would actually go out and say he has a beautiful physique.
Yeah, I do. I agree.
Beautiful. Yeah. And there's not too many guys you can say that about today.
No.
Yeah. And how many kids did he have? Do we know?
4, I think.
Yeah.
Four kids. Yeah.
4 kids. Wow.
Wow.
And Arnold loved his personality because he was so bold with Arnold. He didn't give a shit, and Arnold loved it.
Yeah. He didn't care. I know he had been on Fuad's channel a couple times, and he'd been dealing with anxiety a little bit and stuff too. He was always worried about people were saying with him, like comments and stuff,
Right.
about his physique. And
You guys know what exactly his job in the army was?
what's that, JP?
You guys know what his job was in the army? What he did exactly there?
He was he taught. I know he was an instructor because they showed him teaching classes and stuff like that.
Yeah, I literally, like, I've read his bio, and that's what it said. He was a military instructor.
Yeah.
It's most likely if he was a drill instructor, they very realistically would have said, like, that's the correction. So what I'm assuming is whatever the Air Force would say AFSC, but whatever his job was, he probably was an instructor for initial skills or secondary skills for that specific career field, if I had to guess.
I wonder if he was ranked. Was he sergeant?
Yeah, I think he was.
Oh, he would have to be. Yeah, they wouldn't put somebody in an instructor role who was less than E5.
Probably E5 or higher.
Or a major instructor role, I should say. There's range instructors and stuff that are E4s or whatever. But if he's been in as long as he has been, I would be very surprised if he wasn't at least an E5, E6.
Mm-hmm.
Did you guys ever see that speech he gave at the 2018 Arnold? It was at the seminar the day after, and they brought him up there because he was the winner the year before. And he started off talking about like the average bodybuilder that had a full-time job and had a family. And he said those guys are just as heroic or inspirational to him as the other guys are on stage, because he said the guys on stage is only like 1%, only a certain percentage are going to ever get to the stage. But he said there's a lot of people out there who are really bodybuilders who have jobs and have families and get up at 4 a.m. to work out. And I thought that was incredible that he recognized those people. Mm-hmm. And then he talked about his upbringing when he was a kid. And he's talked about the guy that his mom was dating would beat him up, and he was a little kid and he couldn't do anything to defend his mom, but he'd go in the room and he'd start lifting weights. I mean, it was unbelievable how open and really down to earth he was. I don't know any other bodybuilders that are like that. I mean, he was just really someone special. Mm-hmm. His personality and the way he would open up to audiences and the things he would say, it was incredible.
Hey,
beyond his physique. I mean, just his personality,
Yeah.
What state did he live in?
South Carolina.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't know if that's where he's from, but that's where he was living.
Okay.
So I would say from the recent stats, this is the toughest one to swallow for all the reasons we talked about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree, JP.
So are we still in 2 weeks are going to move on business as usual, or will finally something happen?
That's a good question. That's what everybody wants to know.
You're going to vote with your dollar, right? I think that until the IFBB has people who stop going because they're like, listen, yes, it's impressive, but I don't want to support it. That's it. It's never going to change.
In 2003, when I was told that my heart capacity is at 44%, but it's reversible if I stop. I mean, I had absolutely no interest in continuing. I mean, zero.
Yeah.
I just don't understand it. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't want to be the preacher here because I'm only 53, and you know, I still have, you know, I'm still very young, and I can't really preach here. Hey, I did everything right, but I did some things right because I was pretty big myself, and it just can't continue like this. It's just so absolutely ridiculous. Something has to change, you know.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if this is the right analogy or not, but you wouldn't watch NASCAR if they went slower. You wouldn't watch football if they stopped contact.
Well, Hidetada said,
Well,
said it
you
best,
know.
right?
In Formula One, they made it a lot safer in the last 20 years, and I'm still watching.
Yeah,
I know that the cars don't sound so great anymore, and but when it comes to safety, they improved a lot, and Formula One is as big as ever. And when you look at my example, nobody wants guys to be smaller, but maybe more responsible, and you know.
yeah. Oh, that's what we, you know, JP, we talk about that. It's just these guys take responsibility. You know, get yourself checked out. Don't.
Sure.
If you're going to take stuff, don't stay on it.
Do a freaking cardiac echogram once a year.
Mm-hmm.
Do some freaking stress test once a year. Keep your blood pressure somewhat under control. I mean, it's not too much to ask.
I always thought too, what if the IFBB had a limit when you were a pro on how many, not how little, but how many you could do in a year, right? If you're trying to peak, where you see guys who will go from Arnold Classic in Columbus and then go to South Africa and then do the Prague Pro and then they want to go to the Olympia, and it's like, again, far be it for me to think that I could explain, hey, this is what it's doing, but if there really was a limit, or they said, hey, if you're not in the top 12 Olympia or even the top 5, get invited back the next year, or, you know, I don't know, maybe there would be a limit where it's like, hey, I really know I'm not going to make it. And I guess too, the point system doesn't help, right? If I can make it to the Olympia on points and I'm top 12 in the world, I get to go. Yeah, but how many times do you have to compete to get there? How much are you really running through yourself to get in that top 12 on points? So I don't know.
What did Jason tell us, Dr. Schottel, what like this 3-part test, hard test we were talking about on this show before cost? $2,500.
Yeah.
And maybe it can then be cheaper. So why not? If you get your pro card, you need to show that test.
And I don't know, should the IFBB cover that?
Well, I mean, I didn't think it through yet, but we maybe, you know.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Or
the sponsors, make the sponsors, you know, if they're sponsored, make them cover it.
maybe even half the cost.
Well,
The cost to the federation, half the cost to the competitor.
Otherwise, you're just not going to get that pro card that year.
Yeah, it's just
How is it in football when you do a transfer or so? You know, they always say they have to spending medical testing or what do they check on, or is it just a farce? I wouldn't know the details.
I don't know what their physical consists of, but yeah. But
Well,
Ryan, you said you brought up about the boxing thing.
yeah, I train a boxer. I mean, he's a master's guy, but he had to take a test just recently to get permission, get his approval to box, and he got denied. So he can't box until he gets certain numbers in the right range. So I mean, that can be something that's, you know, if we have a doctor that's understanding, like a Dr. Jason, who's like, he sits at the head of the IFBB, who controls and oversees these things, then maybe it can happen.
Well, that's what's needed.
But see, this far surpasses just the IFBB or the athletes alone. This, for far too long, we've looked at this as an individual sport. That's enough. We're a team. We're all one now. We have to start acting as a team and doing things together to further the sport. So, like I said, we're looking at it as from a selfish standpoint. It's an individual sport. It's all about me. We need to think about the furtherment of the sport, and we need to all come together. The IFBB needs to. We're gonna have to institute some type of rules of some type. I mean, where that's going to happen, I mean, who knows? But it needs to be approached as a team effort now, because we all have to work together if we want. If if we want to keep the sport going, moving forward, or not even just that, if we just give it, two shits about the health of our fellow athletes and our friends and our competitors,
Yeah.
Yeah.
In this, I mean, I understand it all costs money, but this is not good for the sport. I mean,
if you're a professional athlete, if you're an IFBB pro, and you're looking at it from a business standpoint, $2,500 for a business investment is nothing. If that's what it costs, I mean, for an individual, if you're looking to, monetize your career in the IFBB, then, I mean, you can't monetize your health. I mean, so $2,500 to do a test is annually. And I mean, I pay a lot more than that in taxes annually in my business. So, I mean, I mean, it can happen.
Yeah.
It's not unaffordable.
No, I mean, how can you put a price tag on your health? I mean, come on. I mean, something has to happen. Something has to go down. I mean,
absolutely.
We know now of the two biggest cases, like CEDRIC or Sean, they had extreme problems. I mean, sometime it was not unexpected. So, I mean, you couldn't have stopped somebody like Sean. He didn't have a pro card, but I mean, it's maybe some, can be just kind of stopped if the license is not coming in, the pro card. But just throwing it out there. I mean, I know it's probably nothing will happen, but it has to, it has to be discussed. I mean, it's becoming really
Has it ever been discussed about the IFBB competitors being a part of a union? Has that ever been brought up or thought of?
Oh, since the 70s.
Really?
Since the 70s.
That's probably a touchy subject, but I was just,
they tried
I mean,
to
all
form a
the
union,
NFL players, everybody, they've all got their unions. If they've got a problem, they just go to their union rep.
Yeah.
They tried to form a union in 1978.
Did they?
Yeah.
Is that the last time, or?
I think so. Yeah, Cal Scalak tried to do it, and then it just fell apart.
Yeah.
Do they still have a spokesperson or representative, the pros, like we used to have? I think Sean Ray.
I think it's
Bob Ciccarello.
Ciccarello, as I believe, but I mean, you really
was.
don't hear much from him saying anything, like trying to, stand up for the athletes whatsoever. I mean, but.
Yeah, but it's kind of hard when you have somebody that's being paid by all these guys to stand up for you.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's kind of, you need somebody that's probably retired, that doesn't compete anymore, that has no affiliation with them. They're not being paid by them to represent.
Right.
Calling all Dorian Yates.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go.
There you go. That's your union president right there.
Yeah.
Oh man.
I take John Hansen any day.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. John, you got time on your hands, man. You could let's start a campaign.
I'll vote for you, man.
Yeah. Probably stirred up a hornet's nest here with this.
I just wonder, all these deaths now, I wonder how much the younger kids getting into bodybuilding are going to want to, how many kids are going to want to be bodybuilders?
I can tell you right now, I'm training an 18-year-old kid, just got his pro card last year. Now he's 19, little over 19. He has said to me and to my store manager, who has used in the past, hey, when should I decide that I'm going to do it? Not even a little bit did it deter him.
Didn't deter him at all. Okay.
Nope.
No.
But I will say that is because, and I've tried to explain this to him, and I'm sure we'll get to this when we get to the other side of the conversation here. Everybody's blinded by that top prize where they're like, well, it keeps going up every year. Now it's 250. Now it's 400,000. My question to them is always the same. Your genetics would need to be elite to begin with, even if they were, and now you're using it, it's bridging the gap. Do you really think that you've got a shot to beat Brandon Curry, Big Ramy, Phil Heath? You have to understand that, sure, is it possible? Somebody's got to, I'm sure, but calculate your percentage of risk here. And I think that that's what's blinding them, is it's like, yeah, but every year that I win the Olympia, I could win almost $500,000. And they really don't understand that it's a 0.0001% that they're actually going to get there.
You got a better chance of winning the lottery.
That's what I try to tell them. And I say, look, it's your decision. I'm a libertarian. Make your choices the way you want to make them. But make them with a calculated risk here, and you haven't reached your natural genetic potential or even close to it.
Oh, I had some very angry young athletes leaving my office. I can guarantee you that, because I had the discussion many times. Said, you will not be a pro. Let me tell you this right now. You're doing already this, and this, and that for so many years. It would have happened already. Focus on your family, But
That doesn't go down well with those
I just told the girl just a week ago, she invited me to her daughter's birthday. I was amazed how many kids she had, what the real life is. I never seen her outside the wellness sport. And when she came back here, I said, look, don't pay me $250 a month. Use it for a college fund or something, because you will not be a pro. It will not happen. I love to help you as a lifestyle client, and to lose some more weight or even build some muscle, but it will not happen for you. And I think she was pretty appreciative, but mostly I don't get that reaction.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I just wonder if more people younger kids are gonna go more to classic than the bodybuilders,
Well, that's possible.
Well,
Yeah, but then
that's already
again,
happening already.
Yeah, that's already happening. Yeah.
But then again, I had some classic guys that are freaking just as crazy.
Yeah, right. Not as much stuff.
I mean, dude, look at the champion over the last 5-6 years. I mean, but it's the same thing we had with men's physique too, right? Like, it's not a different division. I just most recently saw it. I can't remember what show it was. Might have been in Brazil or something. And I was like, this guy's a bodybuilder with trunks on. Like, it's not even a different division at this point.
Yeah.
I lost one guy because I wasn't on board with him injecting Novotil into every muscle backstage. I mean,
Wow.
Yeah. Was it the last Arnold we were watching? We were talking about not the classic physique, the men's physique. The men's, they were popping out of their shorts, their legs and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, they're blowing up too. I mean, it's
Wow.
Yeah. Crazy.